And welcome back to another Paul's Aquariums video. This is going to be a fun video. We are going to aquascape one of these new GS series Dymax aquariums. Usually there is 60 centimeter and bigger tanks, but now they have 5 different sizes smaller than a 60 centimeter tank. I think the smallest one's 30 centimeters. They go all the way up to 50 centimeters. Super low iron glass. Look how clear they are. Lovely aquariums. They have a glass lid if you want a glass lid, and they even have a little foamy bit underneath. Let's figure out what size we want to go for, and we'll show you how to aquascape. And now that I've got all the packaging undone, you can see how nice these are. Look at the color of the glass. I'm not entirely sure which one I want to aquascape. I'm thinking maybe the 45 centimeter or the 50 centimeter one. Could technically aquascape one of each size, couldn't I? We're going to need more tanks. And I've decided to go for the 45 centimeter tank. This is 45 centimeters by 28 centimeters by 28 centimeters. I think that works out to roughly about 35 liters of total volume, give or take a little bit. The foam base as well is actually stuck to the underside of the tank, so you're not going to lose that. That is a really, really cool feature. The lids themselves come with these little brackets which just break apart. You can attach them onto the sides of the tank, and then your lid will sit flush if you choose to use it. Also, there's a little gap at the back, and that gap is designed for a hang-on filter or overflow filter. We're going to pair it up with this Slim Flow 500. It's a little bit of an overkill for this size tank, but because it's got the double cartridge, there's a lot more filtration. There's a little knob there that you can turn it so the flow goes right down as well. That's just going to sit on the back of the tank, so you're not really going to notice that. We're probably not going to use a background on this tank for this video, but you could use whatever you want and you won't even see the filter. For lighting, we're going to use a Dymax Rex Flora 45 centimeter. Obviously, 45 centimeter light for a 45 centimeter tank. Haha! Of course, the box is a little bit bigger for all the bits and pieces, but that is going to grow a decent amount of plants. There's a couple of different settings so you can reduce the light as well. That's the basic gear we're going to use. Maybe a little internal heater as well. What we're going to do first is sort out our substrate, and then we're going to do a very cool hardscape. So just to prove that I am not sponsored by Dymax, boo, I know, I'm going to use Aqua Earth. Look at him, so serious, Oliver. Aqua Earth is an awesome, awesome substrate. So if you've never heard of this stuff before, it is actually a little pelletized volcanic ash pellet that's been baked a couple of times to get rid of most of the organics. It has a lot of trace elements and minerals. It's what's called an active substrate. So it's like a little clay ball. If you crush it, it'll turn to mud. So you don't wash this stuff out. It will alter your pH, so it'll drag the pH down. Our water in Brisbane is hard and alkaline where we are. So anything from a pH of 7.8 to about 8.1 or so. This stuff will drag your pH and drag the general hardness down, and you'll ideally have a pH around that 6.5 to 6.8, depending on what other chemicals you use to adjust your water quality. So it is super, super awesome for planted tanks, for South American fish like tetras and stuff like that, that like soft acidic water. So with your pH being below 7, perfect for a lot of plants as well. That is what we're going to use as our main layer underneath. We're going to cap it off with a Dymax product. This is just a black pebble. It's a really nice looking pebble. We'll see if that goes with our rock sculpture. I'm sure it will, but black is always a good choice if you want a cool looking substrate. You could use any color you want. You can use rainbow gravel if you want, and we may set up one of these with a rainbow gravel tank eventually. Yes, but those are the 2 main substrates we're going to use. So first we're going to pour that one in and scape our different levels. So it's important to note that the Aqua Earth you do not want to wash out, as I said before, because it's a clay-based ball. It will just turn to mud. Never wash the Aqua Earth out. With our other substrate, we have washed that because there will be a fair bit of dust, even though it's technically pre-washed. You always want to wash that stuff out. Just normal cold tap water is perfectly fine to wash your substrate out with. And that way you're going to get rid of a lot of the dust. So when you do fill it up with water, you will get a little bit of murkiness. You just want to go very, very slow with filling it up, like put a little plate or something down first, pour the water on the plate, just so you don't stir up the Aqua Earth underneath the layer of gravel. But all this is this just capping the Aqua Earth off so that any fish that live in here and they dig, like Corydoras or anything like that, are not going to destroy the substrate underneath. Now that we've got our substrate in, the fun bit is making rocks. So what you're going to need for this is a couple of zip ties. Yes, you'll need zip ties. You'll need some rocks, and you'll need some rock dust. So the easiest way of making any sort of rock out of rocks, well, joining rocks together technically, you want to find two rocks that you really, really like each other. You're going to join them together. You're going to zip tie them in place so that they're super, super tight. And then you're going to get a little bit of tissue paper. You're going to pack the tissue paper around all the gaps between the rocks. So making sure that the tissue paper actually holds both rocks in place. And then you're going to do a couple of drops of aquarium super glue. So the glue, once it contacts with the paper, is going to create a chemical reaction. It's actually going to heat up quite a bit to the point where it smokes. It won't catch on fire. Well, it hasn't yet. But it will smoke, and that chemical reaction will bond the two rocks together. So you can pack as much as you want around the rocks and that. Don't stress too much about seeing the white tissue paper, because once you've done that, you can get a little bit of more glue, sprinkle that on the hardened tissue paper, and just spread a little bit of the dust from the rocks around that. Once they're washed in that, you're not really going to notice any dust coming off them or anything. So that is the easiest way of joining rocks up. Now that we've joined those two rocks up, we're going to do exactly the same with a giant rock sculpture and make a really cool setup for this tank. I've done the arch in exactly the same way. I've just zip tied rocks to the actual piece of tubing, and then I have glued all the rocks together and then removed the tubing. Very, very easy way of doing it. Tubing's a little bit more difficult than something that is not flexible, but it works either way. You just have to be a little bit more careful if whatever you're gluing stuff to and zip tying it to is flexible. But that gives us a general shape, and then away we go. And now we've made our rocks. Time to put them in the tank. Now, I did a silly thing and I didn't really measure anything. I know, that's half the fun, not measuring stuff. If you were pedantic, you would measure it to make sure it fits. We're just gonna wing it. I reckon it'll be fine. Worst comes to worst, it might stick out the top of the tank, but we can always push this big rock into the substrate and see how we go. So let's get the rocks in the tank. And how cool does that look, if you don't mind me saying so? That actually fits. It does fit. Oh, that's good. And it is as simple as that. So we have our main rock sculpture, as you saw before. We have a few loose bits of the same type of rock, and this is just dragonstone, so very, very common rock. You can use whatever rock you want. Rocks like the dragonstone will bring the pH up a little bit, but our aqua earth will fight that and drag it down as well. So you're going to get roughly a balanced pH once your tank is cycled, and it will take about sort of 4 to 6 weeks to cycle most tanks. But there we go. That is where we are with our aquascape. What we're going to do now is turn a light on and check out how cool it looks. And that looks well lovely, if I don't say so myself. Rock is fitting perfectly in there. How good is that? How good is that for not measuring anything? And I've just realized with the water level there, the top of that rock is going to stick out. You could push it further down in the substrate and it would be just under the water. But that sticking out like that would be absolutely awesome to grow some moss and semi-terrestrial plants on this, growing out of the actual tank. So if you don't put the lid on it, that would be a perfect thing to do. We've got our 45 centimeter Rex LED on top, which fits perfect, obviously, on the 40 centimeter tank. So these lights do come in a 30 centimeter as well, which the legs extend out, so you could use that for all the different size tanks. So it's a very awesome setup. Obviously, we haven't connected our filter or anything to it because this is still going to stay dry for the time being. But a filter would just hook on the back, little heater on the back. If you didn't want to do a carpeting plant in this tank, a few little really nice crypt plants along the front, twisted valve at the back would look super awesome. Anyway, I hope you liked this little video of aquascaping. If you want to see more aquascaping tanks, maybe even fully setting them up, just comment down below or click the thumbs up if you don't want to comment. And we will see you in the next video. I'm really liking that. It's looking cool. Thank you very, very much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.